Good morning. Good morning. This is probably not the usual for us, but good morning. Jackie Glass here, mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and your House of Delegates for the 89th District, the laced up legislator. We are working today. Unfortunately, I'm not in the office yet. I'm actually getting my clothes together. Last night was crossover, so I'm still here at my Airbnb as I started my day a little bit later, purposefully. Last night was crossover, and for those of you guys who don't know, crossover is, or today is crossover, I lied. Today is actually crossover. So today is the day that we have to get all of the bills that we have over to the Senate. Now that journey started last night. We were in chambers until after 10 o'clock in the evening last night, just going through bills, cycling through them so that we can get them all over to the Senate by today. So it was quite an eventful evening, which means, it was late. And we all know you have your days where you gotta work late. So I am still getting myself ready to walk in. Typically on Tuesdays, I would be going to the Privileges and Elections Committee and hearing election law, but all of the bills that we should have heard should have been heard already because we're getting ready to send everything over to the Senate. I believe we went through 209 bills yesterday, thereabouts, probably more than that. Maybe it was closer to 250. I'm not 100%. 250 bills that we had to listen to, and then we'll vote on those today. I'm not sure how many we have on the docket, but it was a late night. It was my first crossover, but let's get to it. As I said, we're going to use these times. These are the mornings where we use this time to update you guys on what's happening in the legislature, what sort of bills we're seeing passed, and just the overall temperature. And it's your opportunity you can drop your comments or your questions in the chat if you have any questions about what we're doing here. But you see, I'm not at work yet. I'm still at my Airbnb getting dressed to go to work because, again, it was a late night. So let me talk to you a little bit about what I saw yesterday. One of the best things that I think is happening in this session, we've seen a lot of laws or a lot of bills come across, at least I have, and I've signed on to several of them, bills that have to do with SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SNAP is almost like we call them food stamps. People used to call them food stamps, but SNAP is such a vital resource for many people in the community. When I was active duty, when we talk about public assistance, I was an E5 in the Navy living in California. I had to use government assistance. I needed WIC. I needed all of that just to make sure. Good morning, Janice. I needed all of that. Good morning, Mom. I needed all of that to make sure I was able to feed my kid, right? So these benefits, I think we kind of have to change the idea of who we think uses these benefits because, everyday people are using them. So two bills in particular that sort of hit me really hard that were about SNAP. One was the expansion of SNAP benefits to actually the notification to college kids that they would be able to, good morning, that they would be able to have access to SNAP benefits. Here's what happens. Most college kids, you hear that ramen diet, like we all hear about that ramen diet that most college kids have. And so they are eligible for SNAP or food stamps, right? A lot of them are eligible for that benefit and have no idea. And so what this bill proposed, wrong slide, what this bill proposed was that universities would be required at orientation to tell the freshmen that they are eligible for these benefits. Now it's like, why do we got to make a bill to do that? Because we do. Because many of them are eligible and not using these benefits and oftentimes being hungry as college students. So this bill already passed. Already passed the House. As you guys, I told you, when it passes the House to us, that means it still has to go to the Senate. The governor still has to say he's okay with it. and then we're able to go from there. So not only does it make them notify them within their first year that they are eligible for the benefits, colleges, it goes a step further and say that colleges need to have on their website a means to actually apply for those benefits. So yeah, you're going to tell them that they're eligible, but on your website, you're going to put a place where they can actually go ahead and start the process to apply for SNAP benefits, for nutrition benefits, because we don't think that college kids should be hungry, and the benefit is there and they're eligible. The second SNAP benefit, which it's funny because all of these are related around college folks, was extending SNAP eligibility to post-secondary education folks, so grad school students. It's interesting because I was just on the phone with a friend of mine who's in grad school, and I said, how's it going? And she said, excuse me, you guys know I'm trying to get ready. Excuse me. So what she said was that, grad school is expensive, right? This we know. Like, we understand that many of these, I'm going to iron y'all, we're doing this together, that grad school is really, really, really expensive. So this bill would extend SNAP benefits to grad school students. These little things that we do. Yeah, Denise, thanks for saying that. And I will check my inbox, Janice. So you said I use them at NSU. Students are aware of many things that they qualify for. Yeah, it's, you know what? We don't have to make it sad. And that's the thing. It is unfortunate, but we have ways to sort of fix it or help institutions and help universities course correct so that they know they have access to these benefits, because it's real. And it's one thing to be trying to pay for college. It's another thing to be there and be hungry. I know that was one of my determining factors about what school I would go to, which one I would need the least help from home. I ended up going to the military, so the absolute least help from home. But those sorts of things. So a lot of, also, there's a bill, oops, sorry y'all, hang in there with me as we sort of figure life out. There's another bill that that allows for, when inmates go in, when folks get convicted of something and maybe they were on public assistance, that it doesn't that their I think their benefits could pause rather than just be because they have kids. Some people have children and things like that. That their benefits would be temporarily interrupted rather than just canceled overall. I haven't got a chance to read that bill fully, but I know that that's out there. Food insecurity, and I say the word food insecurity lightly because I believe that we have a food apartheid in our area specifically, because there are policies that are preventing people from having access to healthy food or to food in general that have been put in place. So this is not like it just happened. It's a series of policies and practices and exercises that create this food apartheid that we have. It's a real thing in our particularly in our area. It's something we've been having a lot of conversations around, and I'm glad that there are legislators that are legislating in a way that says, we kind of need to fix this with the things that we have in place. So there's that about SNAP. The other thing that we sort of stayed, as I said, for those of you just joining, I'm still at my Airbnb because we're in the midst of crossover. And so we worked until 10 p.m. last night, which means, work didn't start until after 10 p.m. for our team. We started early. We had an 8:30 start and a 10 p.m. finish, but which means we still had to do our work in between. So it was a very late night, and I'm sort of taking my time getting in this morning because today is going to be another long night, and I need my brain to be ready for all the things that we're going to be doing. All right. So another thing that we sort of talked about, or let me see that and you can drop your questions or comments in the chat if you have any. with that, so SNAP benefits, I talked about inmates. Another thing that I've been seeing, at least as your legislator, is I get a lot of emails and phone calls and, quite frankly, written letters from inmates. And at first I didn't really understand. I was like, what can I do? I didn't know. How can I help? What does that mean? So as a legislator, we have the unique opportunity to ask questions we have the unique opportunity to ask questions about people's inmate status. So I had a guy that was like, hey, my son was supposed to be moved from this place to this place because there was COVID. Can you call and check on him? And there's a person I can call to be like, hey, what's the status of this inmate? We're trying to help folks with their parole status, well, not parole status, their status on being pardoned. Yesterday, guys, like, as we're going through bills, we had probably 10 plus men, all of them were men, bills that we had to pass that were compensation for wrongful convictions. 28 years. A guy served 28 years for a crime he didn't commit. 10 years here, 7 years there, 15 years here. It was just a series of names that we just kept rolling through of people wrongfully convicted. And so it requires us, and we have to vote on bills to say that they get their compensation, because there's a compensation formula based off of every year they were wrongfully incarcerated. What was the most egregious was that this guy who served 28 or 25 years, he ended up getting like $1.2 million. I just said, wow. We think about what he lost, right? We think about what he lost being wrongly convicted. It was really gut wrenching, and to know that we have to raise our hand and press our buttons and say yes, that he should be compensated. I think that's an automatic, right? However, I did just sign onto a bill yesterday that is going to cause, it passed in the House, but it's going to make us have to rethink, right? Have to reevaluate the compensation formula, because that's not, like, to me, 1.7, I mean, granted, I don't know what the man would have made, but he was wrongly convicted for 28 years. And I'll ask you guys, what do you think is fair compensation? I know I felt like $1 million wasn't enough. I just sat there and was like, wow, all the things he missed out on. I mean, it's priceless time you can't get back. But yeah, it's not a lot to me. It's not a lot. So I don't know what y'all think. What I want to look and read the formula, but I also, again, signed on to the bill to have us next session reevaluate what that formula is. One guy got like $250K plus $10,000 for educational assistance, so he could go back to school. That was a whole thing. But hopefully we'll be relooking at that. We'll be looking at that next session. So Conrad, you said two things. First, he says the projected income over the years times one. Yeah, but how do we project their income when we've changed their trajectory? Do you know, that's what sort of hits me. It's like, we're projecting their income, but what was his trajectory? I don't know what his path was going to be. And then you asked, what is the biggest surprise? What's the biggest surprise since I've gotten started? Oh, he said, I'm guessing. Oh, I don't know. But I know it needs to be looked at. I'm going to think on that, Conrad. I'll be processing what my biggest surprise has been thus far. But was a huge deal. I know I put something else in the comments that I said I would talk about. I'm just trying to see what that was. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Yesterday we also talked a lot. We did the big bill, which was House Bill 787, which, if you guys have been watching the news, this is the bill that has been created this war on parents' rights. I feel like it's a war. I feel like this bill exacerbates it. It antagonizes. It's very antagonistic. It's about the divisive curriculum, right? Saying that we can't teach things that are divisive. that bill went through, it passed, right? Like, it passed in the House, and I don't think it'll survive the Senate, but pretty much it says, first it said divisive curriculum, and if you look at what the governor put out when he first took office, he put out these executive orders, right? And for if you don't know what an executive order is pretty much him saying, yo, I want this to happen, I want this to happen, I want this to happen, and these are things that's gonna happen because I said so. Right now, oftentimes, like many things, you know, an executive order sometimes needs funding, which means you got to go to the legislators. Remember, that's the executive branch, or it needs a bill or a law to support it, because executive orders are not laws. They're just him saying, yo, I can do this, so this is what I want you to do, which is why there was a huge debate over the mask mandates and then about school curriculums. This bill was altered yesterday before we saw it. It had that whole divisive curriculum piece in it, and then they changed it. I can't remember what the exact wording was, but it's still a line saying that you can't teach anything that makes anyone feel bad about themselves, that says any race is more superior than the other, that there's 6 different criteria, but it handicaps us in teaching history. And what it does is that it makes it criminal. The bill makes it criminal for a teacher to teach something that could be considered divisive or making one race look bad over another. So if I'm a social studies teacher right now, a history teacher, I'm just like, I could go to jail based off this law, or excuse me, I can be criminally charged based off this law if a child goes home and says, I feel like this group of people are bad because of what they did to this group of people. And if it feels offensive to that parent, or they can report them. So like, what are we doing? What are we actually doing? We have, I will tell you, I felt myself getting a little bit upset inside of the chambers yesterday as we debated this bill, because we were talking about parents' rights and things like that. I was getting super upset, and I came up with a hypothesis, but I'm going to read what Sasha said. Sasha said that bill truly makes you sad, but it doesn't surprise me. Some of us have been told if you're offended, you don't know your history. Even had it on shirts. So now teachers are criminals. Let's see. Now teachers are criminals for teaching history. Yeah. It's upsetting. It's upsetting, and to think about, that there is a lot of hypocrisy across the board, right? Everybody, like something weird, and not even just hypocrisy. It's sometimes we change our minds, right, about how we feel about things. However, to be promoting I don't want to even philosophically get into the conversation. It was very tense last night. Very, very tense. If I could show the highlights, I would show the highlights of how wild, kind of how very serious it got. Like it looked a little bit like sounded sometimes like the little WWE world where people were shouting things, But the bill passed, and what I think got to me the most was the weaponizing of the Civil Rights Act, like taking language that was meant to protect people to harm people. Like, this is taken straight from the Civil Rights Act, that no person shall be, and then someone used Thomas Jefferson as a reference, and it was like, well, you can't teach things that say that all men are not created equal. Well, that's weird, because when that was said, it literally meant all men, and then it only meant white men. So when that was said, it actually didn't include half this room. So it's frustrating. I don't think that the bill will survive the Senate, but essentially we are criminalizing the teaching of history, while also saying, at least the folks on the other side of the aisle are criminalizing teaching the full history from a place of truth, while also saying we want to teach the full history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly is the uncomfortable. The ugly is the divisive piece. So why will we criminalize that? There's that. Yeah. Yep. And Comrade said, weaponizing the Civil Rights Act. Got to create the rhetoric that highlights that they are. Yep. It's extremely frustrating, but know that I am actively listening and making sure that we understand that this is just the beginning, right? This is part of this particular thing is a part of this administration's sticking points. I think we will continue to see parents be weaponized. But here's what I took from it. Because when we say parents' rights, as a parent, I have spent many years in my child's school systems being looked at as if I was overstepping for advocating for my child. And I just realized that it only our systems only take a look when it is some specific children or again, anyway. So here's what I think is that instead of creating this divisive rhetoric, what I did when I got upset with my child's school system, and I didn't value what was happening, I looked at where the change is created. The change is created on local school boards, right? And this bill would take a lot of authority from local school boards. When I had a problem with the curriculum, I went to board documents, or I wanted something taught. I went to board documents, and my child is in Norfolk Public Schools, and so on board documents, it tells you exactly how you can get something added to the curriculum. It tells you exactly how you can get access to the curriculum. So while this administration is using this sticking point, because our children are our heartbeats outside of our chest, right? And so it's going to be a very passionate issue that instead of weaponizing parenthood and parents' rights, we could be actually teaching folks how to use the systems that localities have in place for them to access their school's curriculum. Because by this law that they are going to try to create, it says that any given point a parent can be like, I want access to all the curriculum. I want to see it, like just to an educator, not work that process. But and there's a reason that we have a process. Instead of making us divisive, we could be teaching people how their localities work and how to build relationships with their school board in a meaningful way to change the trajectory, not just for their little citizens, but for all of our little citizens. 2, if you big mad, right, like I was at one point, big mad at what's happening in the school system, we need to get candidates to start running for school board. I did it, 2018. I was big mad. I was big mad at what was happening in my child's school. I was big mad because he was injured in school. It was a lot going on. My child got stitches in his head. All these things. Where are the policies? Why are we not following up? If my child has suicide ideation, like a lot. So I ran for school board. Mad. I was mad. Just as mad as some of these parents are now. And so I say to you guys that we have a responsibility. And I know this is for the privilege, but that's something that I want to commit to, is that if you are in these conversations right now and you possibly have the bandwidth, the school board is a huge asset in solving some of these problems. These are localities. These are local elected officials that should be in this conversation with parents, with educators, with the school administration, not the governor, not any political party. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's frustrating, but that is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So to end on the school stuff, they did pass the bill. Like, it was the first thing. I feel like we got bulldozed when we first walked in. We had a Senate bill on our desk that was on the third read, and it was the first time we saw it. And if you've been watching, the third read on a bill is when we actually vote on it. We have to see a bill. Bill has to be on our calendar 3 times before we vote on it. So the first time it's just there. The second time, whoever brought the bill forth stands up and tells us a little bit of something about it. The third time we actually vote on it. So there's 3 days. The life of the bill has 3 days before, once it hits the floor where everyone is. And so this bill just showed up on third read. So we only got one chance to look at it. It was a Senate bill that crossed over. And we immediately had to vote on it because it was the mask mandate bill. So right now, it is parent choice, right? It is not right now, but it would be effective in July, which I think this is a lot for show, because we won't be in school when it gets effective, and hopefully by September, hopefully by September, when our little citizens get back into the classroom, that we will be on the other side of the wave for COVID, right? Unless some new variant shows up as we're dealing with Delta and Omicron and all that stuff. But I think this was just for show, to get a win, and sometimes, that's helpful. Your people want to see you get a win. Yep. So what did you say, Mom? Some people live. Some real lives is a chain. Some lies justify generations. I'm just like, yep, that's true. So to your point, so be hot standby on mask mandates or no mask mandates, whatever you want to call it, because that's a real thing happening. That bill it made it through both sides. It'll go to the governor, and then we won't have mask mandates, and then localities won't be able to. School systems won't be able to make their decisions as to whether or not they want to make masks optional. And that's the thing, is that's how it should be. That's why we have state, local, and federal government, right? And we are essentially not allowing our local legislators to legislate. So today, and I'm going to get ready to wrap it up. I know I'm over time. I'm over time. Today, I suspect I will see a lot of bills on religious freedom and religious exemptions. So over the past week, I've gotten a lot of emails about support this bill that supports religious exemptions in a pandemic. So if you guys don't know this, people can claim a religious exemption for not getting a vaccination or not. They can claim a religious exemption, which is absolutely normal. This happens. However, during a time of emergency or like a pandemic, that same thing doesn't necessarily apply. There's a burden of proof, right? There's a burden of proof. Hey, Ebony. There's a burden of proof. So they have to prove that they're religious because we're in the middle of an emergency. And so I firmly believe that civil liberties, especially religious freedom, those things should be protected. However, there are certain points where when that liberty violates other liberties, like you could possibly, kill someone, cause a trickle effect of just though the virus is still working its way through, that I think this is not one of those reasons, that we should. Now, as a military person, the military has really done, has a whole process for conscientious objectors, meaning if you're like, I can't do this because of my faith. My faith says I can not do X, Y, Z. Thou shalt not kill, right? So I can't go to war for you, right? And you're able to articulate that in a way. Now, I haven't seen any religious, and this is what I'm telling folks that send me and say support this exemption, that we should be able to just not get the vaccine, because I'll be honest, it's mostly Christian faith folks that we shouldn't be able to get them because of our faith. Now, I haven't seen any Christian denomination say that they en masse that they oppose the vaccine. So I'm really trying, really just saying I'm not going to support a bill that says you in a state of an emergency, guys. Like that's a whole different level. We have a public to protect. Do you still get to make that choice? You get to make that choice, but then you also render yourself exempt from different things, like going to people's restaurants, and that's just, if you choose not to. I just think it doesn't come without consequence, and it doesn't come without critique. And I think we should take it all very, very, very seriously. Conrad said, hold them to the standard. If they object to other, I believe that there's a whole standard for everyone. Secondly, we're going to be seeing some bills about religious exemptions. So, truth. I sat in a general laws committee, and this is just general, where we're going through general laws, where I watched as people said I should be able to discriminate this or this in the name of my faith. Now, if we all know this, but faith is naturally discriminatory, right? Like faith is, as one of the guys stood up, it's like, yes, most faiths have something that they don't want to be a part of or be associated with. It's just a part of having your faith or your religion. But essentially there were these groups that stood up and were like, we should be able to deny X, Y, and Z if our faith says so. Here's the thing. And they want to codify, and by codify, they want to bring it into law. They want it to be a code in the Commonwealth. Is that I'm not going to be voting yes on any of these things because I believe that the First Amendment already protects some of the things that they're asking for. So I'm not going to make it criminal I'm not going to codify or put in code. At least this is the decision that I'm making, that for any reason, whether it's your church is a emergency shelter or whatever that is, that you can just say, nah, like I'm not going to legalize discrimination, but I do believe that your religious freedom, right? Your religious freedom is protected by the First Amendment. So it's a tough balance. I have to really sit with how I articulate these things in a way that makes sense to the everyday person and to myself. And make these decisions. Really, this is why I said over the summer, I'm really going to need all of you guys, right? What's going to happen is we're going to have these work groups where we start talking about the policies that are in front of us, so that once January through February roll around, we're coming from a place of truth. We're coming from a place of knowledge, and we're able to, personally, right? Because I'm going to hit the button. I'm going to hit yes or no, or I'm going to abstain, because I'm creating a record, right? Yeah, I'm creating a record. So I'm going to need help, and I'm going to study, just like I'm going to study and do my part. And I need you guys to be a part of this journey, because I think anything that's good takes a team. Anything that's good takes a team. Jason says, I watched y'all last night. Y'all didn't get out until late. The Republican rejected like every aspect of of American history. I'm just shocked. I guess they want to teach Plymouth Rock and skip all of the other history. Yes. So what Jason is referring to is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Yeah, we didn't get out until after 10 p.m. Is that we put some amendments to that bill I was telling you about, House Bill 787. We put some amendments in to ensure that full history would be able to be taught, and they rejected all of them. One of the my seatmate, actually, Delegate Clint Jenkins, he put in an amendment to ensure that Ruby Bridges could be taught. Right? Like, we should be able to teach the history of Ruby Bridges based off that bill, y'all. Based off that bill, that would be considered divisive, because we would have to ask ourselves, and we would have to say, why was Ruby denied going to certain schools? Why did Ruby have to do what Ruby, like, we would have to actually say, European American people did not like Americans of African descent and wanted to make sure that they did not have the same privileges or opportunities as they did. It's unfortunate, in the same vein that we talk about this, like we talk about curriculum. I voted on something yesterday. I voted no. I'm just going to put that out front before I say what I did. We voted to change the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which is, if you guys familiar, we created, or Governor Northam created, the first cabinet level position that dealt with diversity, equity, inclusion, and Dr. Underwood was our first Secretary of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. We changed the name from Diversity, Equity, Inclusion to Diversity, Opportunity, and Inclusion. That was a bill that they put in, because we don't want to talk about equity. We want to talk about opportunity, but opportunity is nothing without access. Yes, it was Delegate Freitas. He brought forth a great deal of bills that, by nature, do not consider anyone but people that look like him or closely like him. Actually, he's trying to take care of his constituents. Let's just be honest, as we all are, and so are we. And so he can take care of his constituents, and we're going to try to take care of ours. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes we're not able to find common ground, right? We're not able to try to find where these things work, and it's reflective of the mass, not just our particular mask. So that name change, it says a lot. If that doesn't speak volumes, that taking out equity and replacing it with opportunity doesn't say a lot. It says all you need to know. It says all the things you need to know. But they rejected every single amendment that had to do with talking about specific aspects of history that would be considered divisive. And so we are in for it, which is why I say we have to squad up over these next 2 years, because it's not going to be easy. Anything that we bring forth that looks like it's going to help working class people, anything that looks like it's gonna be a fight, unfortunately. And I'm hopeful that that the tide shifts a bit. I'm hoping that I hope that common ground with political opinions on different continent is not the best way. No, it's not. And I don't think that we've been able to find common ground. We had 2 legislators that walked. What I mean by walk is they left the room when we started having, not on our side of the aisle, but that left the room when we started talking about the curriculum things, which is, it speaks volumes too. When it gets hard, you get to, some people have the privilege of just walking away, and will, and it's not easy. This is not just pressing a button, y'all. If it was, I think many more people would do it. A lot of decisions that we make carry a heavy load, and I know that it's going to affect a lot of people's lives directly. So know that I don't take this lightly. I don't take it lightly. So, yeah, it was a long night. It was a long night. But we're here, still in Richmond. As I said, for you guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I am in Richmond typically from Sunday night till Friday night, or from, Monday morning to Friday night. I try to use the weekends to spend a little bit of quality time with my little citizens and my spouse and my family. But if there's anything that you want us to be a part of on the weekends, we will do our very best. Don't hesitate to email the email deljglass@house.virginia.gov. I need you to go to the website, delegatejackieglass.com, and sign up for our newsletter so you can stay abreast on what's happening. It comes out every week. We put a little something out every week during session. And once we're out of session in March, we'll probably start doing it monthly. Because I want to celebrate you, and I want to stay connected, and I want to do good things. So we do, because we have an amazing team here. To that end, I will take no more of your time, because it's time to get this day rolling. Y'all see, y'all with me. I done iron my shirt, steam my jacket, about to put on my stuff and my sneakers, and we're going to get moving, right? Until Thursday, which Thursday there should be a massive update. I'll see you guys on Thursday. All right. You guys try to make it a great day. And thank you for tuning in. I so appreciate you guys who are watching these sessions. If you're watching, ask us questions. Do not hesitate to drop a line and ask a question while we're doing all the work. All right. Take care. Make it a great morning.